The words hit me like a physical blow, each one a perfectly aimed punch to the gut. Your paranoia is a liability, Alex. Mark, my CEO, and a man I once called a mentor, stood at the head of the boardroom table, his face a mask of cold disappointment. We're a forward-thinking company. We don't have time to chase ghosts in the machine. He was talking about my code. The vulnerability I'd found, a subtle, almost poetic flaw in our flagship security software. A backdoor so elegant it was practically invisible. I'd spent weeks warning them, showing them how it could be exploited, and in front of the entire executive team, the very colleagues who had once clapped me on the back, I was being publicly executed. Sarah, my direct supervisor, wouldn't even meet my eyes. She just shuffled her papers, the silent cosigner on my professional death warrant. They weren't just firing me, they were erasing me, dismissing my life's work as a delusion. And in that moment, in the sterile silence of that glass-walled room, I learned the most brutal lesson of my life. Sometimes, the people you trust the most are the ones who will hand you the shovel to dig your own grave. But I also made a silent vow. They wanted me to disappear? Fine. But I wouldn't just vanish. I would become the ghost they were so sure didn't exist. The departure was a blur of fluorescent lights and feigned sympathy. Packing my desk felt like preparing a coffin. The sting of betrayal was a constant, burning presence in my chest. They saw me as a failed developer, a cautionary tale. So I decided to lean into it. I abandoned the world of sleek corporate tech, of agile development and buzzword-laden meetings. I retreated. My new world became a tiny, cramped apartment that smelled of old books and stale coffee. And there, I dove headfirst into the one field my former colleagues openly mocked as digital archeology. Cryptanalysis. You're doing what? Sarah had scoffed when she heard, months later. Playing with ancient puzzles? Alex, the future is AI and brute force. Hackers don't use ciphers anymore. They use algorithms that can guess 1 trillion passwords a second. To them, I was a Luddite, a fool trading a 6-figure salary for a dead-end hobby. But they didn't understand. They saw code as a set of instructions. I was learning to see it as a language, with grammar, with history, with secrets whispered between the ones and zeros. I became a monk in a digital monastery, my days a blur of deciphering historical texts, studying Enigma machines, and reverse engineering obscure Cold War-era encryption methods. I wasn't just learning. I was rewiring my brain, looking for the hidden patterns, the human fingerprints left inside the cold logic of the machine. It was a solitary, obsessive pursuit, fueled by the echoing laughter in my memory and an unyielding resolve to prove that the oldest keys can still unlock the most modern doors. My ascension began not with a bang, but with a whisper. A global ransomware attack, codenamed Hydra, was slithering its way through the world's most secure networks. A ghost. It bypassed every known defense, encrypted entire hospital systems, and brought financial markets to their knees. The tech giants, including my old company, threw billions at it, their best AI-driven defenses proving utterly useless. They were fighting a modern war with modern weapons, and they were losing. From my little apartment, I watched the chaos unfold, and then I saw it. Buried deep in Hydra's malicious code, I recognized a structural pattern. It wasn't a flaw in the programming, it was a signature. A complex, layered encryption method that didn't mirror anything from the last 20 years. It mirrored the logic of a forgotten Soviet cipher, one designed to be unbreakable by machines, but solvable through a specific, counterintuitive human logic. While the world was trying to brute force the door down, I realized I just needed to find the hidden key. For 3 days, I didn't sleep. It was just me, the code, and the ghosts of long-dead spy masters. And then it clicked. I wrote a decryption key, not with overwhelming processing power, but with ingenuity. I uploaded it to a public forum, anonymously. Within hours, the world began to unlock. I hadn't just stopped Hydra. I had exposed its core philosophy, proving that the most sophisticated cyber threats were not just lines of code, but expressions of human cunning. My anonymous key became the stuff of legend. Soon, whispers turned into job offers, then government contracts. I founded my own firm, Enigma Resolved. We became the elite, the ghost hunters that corporations and nations called when all their modern marvels failed. The invitation to be the keynote speaker at the annual Global Security Summit was the moment I'd been waiting for. It was the most prestigious event in the industry, held in a massive, opulent ballroom, and I knew they would be there. I stepped onto the stage, the spotlight warm on my face. The room was packed with the titans of tech, a sea of faces looking up at me. And in the third row, I saw them, Mark and Sarah. They looked older, more tired. Their company had suffered a catastrophic data breach 6 months prior, losing them a massive government contract. They looked at me with a mixture of curiosity and confusion, not yet recognizing the paranoid developer they had cast out. I began my speech not with technical jargon, but with a story. There's a dangerous kind of blindness in our industry, I said, my voice calm and clear, echoing through the silent hall. It's the blindness of arrogance, the belief that what is new is always better, and what is old is always obsolete. It's a belief that can lead you to dismiss a valid warning as paranoia, to mistake a dedicated watchman for a man chasing ghosts. A flicker of recognition crossed Mark's face. Sarah froze. I then pulled up a single slide on the massive screen behind me. It was a complex string of code. This, I announced, is the core vulnerability from the recent breach at Omnicorp, their biggest competitor. The room murmured. Their multi-billion-dollar AI defense system couldn't see it, but it's not new. In fact, I clicked, and another string of code appeared beside it. They were nearly identical. It's based on a flaw I discovered and reported to my former employers 5 years ago. The silence in the ballroom was absolute. It was a crushing, heavy weight. I didn't have to name them. Every single person in that room who followed the industry knew where I used to work. I looked directly at Mark and Sarah. Their faces had gone pale, a mask of pure, unadulterated shock and public humiliation. They were seeing the ghost. They were realizing that the catastrophic failure they'd mocked me for predicting had come to pass. Just not for them. Yet. The empire they had built was standing on the same cracked foundation they had refused to fix. In their eyes, I saw the devastating weight of their mistake, the public cost of their private arrogance. But as I looked at them, small and exposed in that vast audience, I felt no anger, no desire for revenge, only a profound, quiet peace. The hole they had left in my life had long since been filled, not with bitterness, but with purpose. I concluded my speech by talking about the future, about the fusion of old wisdom and new technology. As the audience rose to their feet in a thunderous standing ovation, I held their gaze one last time. They weren't my villains anymore. They were just a lesson, the most important one I ever learned. Your worth is never determined by the people who refuse to see it. It's determined by what you build in the ruins they leave behind. And I had built an empire on the very ground they told me was barren.